9-year-old Ellie McIntyre's bare feet had turned blue, but she kept crawling. Through the snow. Through the wind. Through the kind of cold that kills. "Please," she whispered, her fingers clawing at the frozen earth. "I didn't steal anything. I didn't." Behind her, the Pemberton family had already bolted their doors. Ahead, nothing but white death stretched to the horizon. She was going to die tonight, and nobody in the whole world would care. This is the story of the orphan girl who should have died in that blizzard, and the broken rancher who refused to let her go. Stay until the end and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The slap came out of nowhere. Ellie hit the kitchen floor hard. Blood filled her mouth. She'd bitten clean through her tongue. "Where is it?" Mrs. Pemberton stood over her hand raised for another strike. "My ring. Where'd you hide it?" "I didn't take nothing, ma'am." Ellie scrambled backward until her spine hit the wall. "I swear on my mama's grave I never—" "Liar!" The second slap split her lip. 3 years. Mrs. Pemberton's voice shook with rage. 3 years I fed you, clothed, you kept you out of the gutter, and you steal from me. I didn't. Ellie tasted copper. I wouldn't never. Heavy footsteps. Mr. Pemberton filled the doorway, blocking out the light. He was a big man, mean eyes, meaner hands. She confessed, lying through her teeth. I saw her sneaking out of our bedroom this morning. I was changing the sheets. Ellie's voice cracked. You told me to, ma'am. That's all I done. Pemberton crossed his arms. Search her room. Already did. Nothing there. Why? Mrs. Pemberton's lips twisted. Probably buried it somewhere, planning to dig it up later and run. I didn't steal nothing. Ellie was crying now, couldn't help it. Please, Mr. Pemberton. 3 years I worked for you. I never took a crumb that wasn't given. Ask anybody. Ain't nobody to ask. He stepped closer. Ellie pressed herself flatter against the wall. You got no people, girl. No family. No friends. Just your word against my wife's. He smiled, and it was the coldest thing Ellie had ever seen. Who you think folks gonna believe? Ellie knew. She'd always known. Nobody believed orphans. Nobody ever had. Please. The word came out broken. Don't send me away. I'll work harder. I'll do anything you want. Just don't. Should have thought of that before you turned thief. Pemberton grabbed her collar and yanked her up. Get your things. You're done here. It's snowing. Ellie dug her heels in, but he was too strong. Mr. Pemberton, there's a blizzard coming. The men said, should have thought of that too. He threw open the back door. The cold hit her like a fist. Wind screamed into the kitchen, carrying snow that stung like needles. Ellie couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 5 minutes, Pemberton said. Get your things or go without 'em. Ellie ran. Her room wasn't really a room, just a closet with a cot. She grabbed everything she owned, took about 3 seconds. One spare dress, more patches than fabric, worn stockings, a shawl so thin you could see through it. And the locket. She pulled it from under her mattress where she'd kept it hidden for 3 years. Silver, tarnished and old, with 2 letters scratched on the back, VA. Inside was a picture of a woman. Dark hair, sad eyes. Beautiful. Ellie didn't know who she was. Her mama, maybe. Or maybe not. She didn't know anything about where she came from. But somebody had given her this locket. Somebody had loved her once, even if she couldn't remember it. She pressed it to her lips. I'm sorry, Mama, she whispered. I tried to be good. I really tried. Time's up. Ellie fastened the chain around her neck and walked back to face whatever came next. Mrs. Pemberton shoved a bundle at her. Bread and cheese, more than you deserve. Ellie took it. Didn't say thank you. Didn't see the point. Hold on! Pemberton grabbed her arm, spun her around. His hands patted down her dress, rough and careless. They stopped at her chest. What's this? It's mine. Ellie's hand flew to the locket. Please, it's all I got. It was my mama's. He yanked the chain. The clasp bit into her neck, then broke. The locket dangled from his thick fingers. Nice silver. He turned it over, saw the initials. Something changed in his face. Something Ellie didn't understand. VA. Huh? Please give it back. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, Mr. Pemberton. It's the only thing I got of her. Please. He studied the picture inside. That strange look again, like he was doing math in his head. Tell you what. He pocketed the locket. I'll keep this as payment for what you stole. We're square now. But I didn't. Get out. Mrs. Pemberton opened the back door again. The storm had gotten worse. Ellie couldn't see past the porch. Go on, for I have him fetch his rifle. Ellie looked at them. These people who'd worked her like a dog for 3 years. Fed her scraps. Beat her when they felt like it. Never once said a kind word. She wanted to scream. Wanted to fight. Wanted to tell them they were monsters and God would punish them for what they'd done. Instead, she walked out into the snow. The door slammed behind her. She heard the bolt slide home. And just like that, Eleanor McIntyre was alone in the world. She started humming. It was something she did when she was scared. An old habit far back as she could remember. Some tune she'd known before she knew anything else. It didn't have words, just notes, rising and falling soft as breath. The humming helped her walk, one foot, then the other. The snow was up to her knees already, and the wind cut through her dress like it wasn't there. Her feet went numb first, then her hands, then everything. But she kept humming. Just get to town, she told herself. 3 miles. You walked further than that lots of times. Except she couldn't see the road anymore. Everything was white. White above white, below white, all around. She could have been walking in circles, could have been walking straight off a cliff. Hello, she called out. Anybody there? Help! The wind ate her voice. She fell, got up, fell again, got up again. The 3rd time she fell, getting up was harder. Come on! Her voice was a croak. Come on, get up, get up. But her legs wouldn't work anymore. Her arms wouldn't push. Her body had decided it was done whether she agreed or not. Ellie lay in the snow staring up at the white sky. Strange thing was, she wasn't even cold anymore. She'd heard about that. Folks freezing to death, they stopped feeling it near the end. Got warm even. Peaceful. Mama, she whispered. Mama, are you there? No answer, just the wind. I'm coming to see you now. Ellie's eyes drifted closed. I'm coming. She was still humming when the darkness took her. Nathaniel Blackwood almost rode right past her. He was fighting his way home through the worst blizzard he'd seen in 20 years, cursing himself for a fool. Should have stayed put when the sky turned ugly. Should have trusted his gut instead of worrying about a few head of cattle. Now here he was, half frozen, barely able to see his horse's ears in front of him. Come on, Smoke. He patted the gray gelding's neck. Almost there, boy. Keep moving. Smoke stopped. What the hell? Nate kicked his flanks. Move, you stubborn! The horse wouldn't budge. He was staring at something, ears pricked forward, snorting hard. Nate followed his gaze. Blue. A patch of faded blue against all that white. No. The word came out before he could stop it. No, no, no. He was out of the saddle and wading through the drifts before he'd finished the thought. His heart hammered against his ribs. Please, God. Please don't let it be what I think it is. It was. A child. A little girl lying face up in the snow, eyes closed, skin the color of old wax, not moving, not breathing far as he could tell. Damn it! Nate dropped to his knees, yanking off his gloves. His fingers found her throat, pressing hard. Come on. Come on, give me something. There. A pulse. Faint as a dying whisper, but there. All right. He stripped off his coat, wrapped it around her. All right, you're not dead yet. You hear me? You're not dead yet, so don't you dare give up. He gathered her in his arms, and she weighed nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just bones and frozen skin, and a heartbeat that was barely hanging on. Nate mounted Smoke with the child pressed against his chest. The ranch was still a mile away, a mile through hell with a dying girl in his arms. You stay with me, he growled at her. Don't you quit. You understand? Don't you dare quit. The girl's lips moved, blue and cracked, but moving. Nate leaned closer. What did you say? A whisper, barely a breath. Didn't steal nothing. Something twisted in Nate's chest. Something he'd kept locked away for 8 years. I know you didn't, he said. Now hold on. He kicked Smoke into a gallop and rode for home like the devil himself was chasing him. Rosa, get out here now! The front door flew open. Rosalinda Santos rushed onto the porch shawl clutched around her shoulders. She saw the bundle in Nate's arms and her face went white. Dios mío, where did you... Found her in the snow. She's dying. Move. Rosa didn't waste time with questions. By the time Nate carried the girl inside, she had blankets spread before the fire and water heating on the stove. Put her here. Gently. Rosa was already stripping off the frozen dress. Mother of God, look at her. She's nothing but skin and bones. Can you save her? I don't know. Rosa's hands moved fast, wrapping the child in quilts. Get more blankets. And the whiskey. Whiskey. She's 9 years old. For her blood. Go. Nate went. When he came back, Rosa had the girl bundled up tight, rubbing her feet with hands that never stopped moving. Her toes. Rosa's voice was grim. Her fingers. We'll see. What do you mean we'll see? I mean we'll see if she keeps them or loses them. Rosa glanced up. Who is she? Where did she come from? I don't know. Found her about a mile out, just lying there in a drift. Like somebody left her. Left her? Rosa pulled back the quilt slightly. Madre de Dios, look. Nate looked. Scars. Old ones layered over each other, crisscrossing the child's back like a road map of pain. Belt marks. Switch marks. The kind that came from years of beatings. His hands curled into fists. Somebody did this to her, Rosa said quietly. For a long time, and then they threw her out like garbage. Son of a bitch. Help me with the stones. We have to get her warm. They worked through the night. Rosa heated rocks and wrapped them in cloth, packing them around the child's body. She dripped warm whiskey and water between the blue lips, talking the whole time. Come on, Nina. Swallow for me. That's it. Good girl. One more. Good. Nate did what he was told. Fetched water, stoked the fire, held the child's hand even though she couldn't feel it. She was so small. So damn small. She ain't mine, he said suddenly. Rosa looked up. What? She ain't my problem. Soon as she's well, I find her people and send her back where she came from. With the people who did this to her. No, not them. Somebody else. An orphanage maybe. Somewhere proper. Rosa said nothing, just went back to rubbing the girl's feet. I mean it, Nate said. I can't take in some stray kid. I got a ranch to run. I heard you. Then why are you looking at me like that? Like what, senor? Like you don't believe a word I'm saying. Rosa's eyes met his, dark and knowing. Because your hand hasn't let go of hers in 3 hours. Nate looked down. The girl's small fingers were wrapped around his, gripping tight, even in unconsciousness. He didn't let go. Sometime past midnight, the girl started shivering. Not gentle trembles. Violent convulsions that shook her whole body, chattering her teeth so hard, Nate thought they might crack. Is that bad? He was on his feet, heart pounding. Should we? It's good! Rosa's voice held something it hadn't before. Hope. Her body is fighting. The blood is moving again. She's having a fit. She's warming up. Hold her. Keep her still. Nate gathered the girl against his chest, trying to steady her through the shaking. She was so light, so fragile, like holding a baby bird. That's it, he murmured. That's it. Keep fighting. Don't give up on me. The shivering went on for hours. Rosa kept working, kept checking, kept praying in Spanish under her breath. Nate kept holding, kept talking, kept willing this child he didn't even know to stay alive. Near dawn, the shivering stopped. Nate's heart seized. Rosa. Wait. The girl's eyes opened. Green. Bright spring green startling against her pale face. They looked up at Nate with confusion, with fear, with something else he couldn't name. You're safe, he said. His voice came out rough. You're at my ranch. You're safe now. Her cracked lips moved. What? He leaned closer. What is it? He took my locket. Then her eyes closed again, and she was gone. What locket? Nate looked at Rosa. What's she talking about? I don't know, but she's alive. Rosa crossed herself. That's enough for now. The girl drifted for 2 days, in and out of sleep, in and out of fever dreams. Sometimes she'd cry out names Nate didn't recognize, words that made no sense. Once she screamed so loud it brought him running from the barn, convinced she was dying. She wasn't dying, just dreaming. Rosa barely left her side. Nate found himself checking every hour, standing in the doorway like some kind of fool, watching the small figure lost in that big bed. She'll live, Rosa told him on the second night. Her fingers are saved. Her toes, too. Good. She's a fighter, this one. Yeah. Nate stared at the sleeping child. What happens when she wakes up proper? What do I do with her? What do you want to do with her? Send her somewhere safe. Find her people. And if her people are the ones who hurt her? Nate didn't answer. He already knew. Whoever had scarred that child's back wasn't getting anywhere near her again. Not while he was breathing. On the third morning, Rosa found him in his study. She's awake, asking for you. For me, she doesn't know me. She knows you saved her life. Rosa's expression was soft. Go, she's scared. The girl was sitting up when Nate walked in, propped against pillows that dwarfed her hair, washed and brushed, looking even younger in the daylight. Those green eyes fixed on him immediately. You're the man, she said, hoarse but steady. You found me. That's right. He stayed by the door, not wanting to crowd her. Name's Nathaniel Blackwood. Folks call me Nate. I'm Ellie, Eleanor McIntyre. A pause. But everybody just calls me Ellie. Ellie. He tried out the name. How you feeling? Better. I thought I was dead. You almost were. I know. No tears. No trembling. Just that too steady voice that didn't belong to a 9-year-old. I was ready for it. Figured I'd get to see my mama. Nate's chest tightened. Your mama. She's dead. Died when I was born. I don't remember her. Ellie's hand went to her collarbone, searching for something that wasn't there. But I had her picture, in a locket. Mr. Pemberton took it. Pemberton. The name landed like a stone. That, who you were living with? Ellie's face changed. The steadiness cracked. Please don't send me back. Please, Mr. Blackwood. I didn't steal nothing. I know that's what they said, but I didn't. Mrs. Pemberton's ring just went missing, and she blamed me, but I never touched it, I swear. Ellie. I'll work hard. I'll do whatever you want. I can cook and clean and tend animals and... Ellie. Nate stepped forward, then stopped when she flinched. Nobody's sending you anywhere. She stared at him, waiting for the catch. Not until you're well, he said. And not unless you want to go. All right. Why? Why what? Why are you being nice to me? Her eyes were too old, too knowing. You don't know me. I ain't nothing to you. Because I can't watch another child die. Because you grabbed my hand in your sleep and wouldn't let go. Because something about you reminds me of everything I lost. Because it's the right thing to do, he said instead. Now tell me what happened, all of it. Ellie told him. She told him about the farmer who'd raised her until she was 6, who'd sold her to the Pembertons for $20 cash. She told him about 3 years of scrubbing floors and hauling water and being treated worse than the family dog. She told him about the beatings when she didn't work fast enough, the meals she went without when Mrs. Pemberton was feeling spiteful. She told him about the ring, the accusation, the blizzard, and she told him about the locket. It's all I have. Her voice finally broke. The only thing that was ever really mine. And he took it. He saw the initials and something changed in his face. Like he recognized them. Like they meant something. What initials? VA on the back. I don't know what they stand for, but the picture inside. Ellie wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She was pretty. Sad, but pretty. I used to look at her every night before I went to sleep. Pretend she was my mama. Pretend she was watching over me. Nate's mind was working. VA. A silver locket. Pemberton's reaction when he saw it. This child had a story. And he had a feeling it was bigger than anyone knew. Ellie, how'd you end up with that farmer in the first place before the Pembertons? Don't know. Been with him far back as I remember. He said somebody paid him to take me when I was a baby. Never told me who. And nobody ever came looking. No, sir. Ellie's voice went small. Nobody ever wanted me. The words hit Nate like a punch to the gut. He thought about Benjamin, his boy, 5 years old with Sarah's smile and Nate's stubborn streak. They'd wanted him so bad it hurt. Loved him so fierce it nearly killed them when the fever took him. Some children were wanted so much their parents couldn't survive losing them. And some children were thrown away like they were nothing. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. It wasn't anything close to just Ellie. He crossed to the bed and knelt beside it, putting himself at her eye level. You listening to me? She nodded. You're staying here. Long as you need to. Long as you want to. Nobody's gonna hurt you again. And tomorrow? His jaw tightened. Tomorrow, I'm riding to the Pemberton place to get your locket back. Those green eyes went wide. You'd do that for me. I would. But why? Nate didn't have an answer that made sense. Didn't have words for the thing cracking open inside his chest, the thing he'd kept buried since Sarah and Benjamin went into the ground. Because somebody should have, he said finally. Long time ago. Now get some rest. He stood to go, but a small hand caught his sleeve. Mr. Blackwood. Yeah. That song you were humming, when you carried me in from the snow. Ellie's eyes searched his face. Where'd you learn it? Nate went still. What song? The one without words, rising and falling. I know it from somewhere, but I can't remember where. Ice ran down Nate's spine. He hadn't been humming. He'd been focused on keeping her alive, on getting her to the ranch, on not losing another child. He hadn't made a sound. Get some rest, he said again. We'll talk more tomorrow. But as he walked down the stairs, his hands were shaking, because he knew that song. Sarah used to hum it, every night rocking Benjamin to sleep, and he'd never told a soul. That night, Nate sat on the back porch, staring at the snow-covered prairie. Rosa found him there, wrapped in her heavy shawl, cup of coffee in her hand. You should sleep, senor. Can't. The child... She was humming a song. Nate's voice was flat. Same song Sarah used to sing to Benjamin. Rosa went still. Perhaps a coincidence. Maybe. Or maybe... He shook his head. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. What will you do? Get her locket back. Find out what Pemberton knows about where she came from. Nate's hands curled into fists. And make damn sure nobody hurts her again. And after, when she is well... Silence stretched between them. She stays, Nate said finally. God help me. She stays. Rosa nodded, no surprise, like she'd known all along. You are a good man, Nathaniel Blackwood. I'm not. You are, even if you don't believe it. She touched his arm. That little girl needs a father, and you perhaps need a daughter. Nate said nothing, but when Rosa went inside, he stayed on that porch for a long time, watching the snow fall and thinking about second chances. Inside the house, Ellie slept without nightmares for the first time in 3 years. She didn't know that her life had changed forever. She didn't know that the man who'd pulled her from the snow was about to become her fiercest protector. She didn't know that her locket held secrets that would shake the foundations of everything she believed about herself. All she knew was that someone had come for her. Someone had carried her through the storm. Someone had said she could stay. For the first time in her 9 years of life, Eleanor McIntyre fell asleep feeling something she'd never felt before. Safe. Nate was saddling smoke before the sun cleared the mountains. Rosa found him in the barn, breath fogging in the cold air. She had that look on her face, the one that meant she was about to say something he didn't want to hear. You're going alone. Yep. That is foolish. Probably. Nate tightened the cinch. But it's between me and Pemberton. Don't need to involve anyone else. And if he has men, if he decides to make trouble, then I'll make trouble back. Nate checked his rifle, slid it into the scabbard. Keep an eye on the girl. Don't let her out of your sight. She asked for you this morning. Wanted to know where you were. Nate paused, hand on the saddle horn. What did you tell her? That you had business to attend to. She got very quiet after that. Rosa stepped closer. She thinks you're leaving, that you've changed your mind about letting her stay. I haven't changed my mind. Then perhaps you should tell her that, before you go. Nate wanted to argue, wanted to say he didn't have time, that Pemberton might decide to skip town if he waited too long. But Rosa was right. She usually was. He found Ellie in the kitchen pushing eggs around her plate like they'd done something to offend her. She looked up when he walked in, and her face went through about 6 different emotions before settling on careful blankness. Morning, Nate said. Morning, sir. You don't have to call me sir. Nate's fine. Yes, sir. A pause. I mean, yes. Nate. He pulled out a chair and sat across from her. She was watching him like a rabbit watches a hawk, ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. Rosa says you think I'm leaving. Ellie's jaw tightened. Aren't you? I'm going to the Pemberton place, getting your locket back. Those green eyes went wide. You meant that I thought maybe you were just saying it, to make me feel better. I don't say things I don't mean. Nate held her gaze. I'll be back before dark. Rosa's gonna look after you while I'm gone. You need anything, you ask her. What if... Ellie stopped, started again. What if Mr. Pemberton won't give it back? Then I'll convince him. He's mean. He's got a temper. So do I. Something flickered across Ellie's face. Not quite a smile, but close. You don't seem like a mean man to me. I'm not. Not to folks who deserve kindness. Nate stood. But to men who hurt children and steal what ain't theirs, I can be plenty mean when I need to be. He was halfway to the door when her voice stopped him. Mr. Nate. He turned. Yeah. Be careful, please. It was such a small thing. 2 words. But something about the way she said them, the worry in her voice, hit Nate harder than he expected. I will, he said. You just eat your breakfast and mind Rosa. I'll be back before you know it. The ride to Pemberton's trading post took 3 hours. 3 hours of Nate rehearsing what he was going to say, what he was going to do. 3 hours of his anger building like steam in a kettle. The trading post sat at a crossroads about 15 miles east of town. Rough wooden building with a false front, trying to look bigger and more important than it was. A few horses tied out front, smoke curling from the chimney. Nate dismounted and tied Smoke to the hitching post, checked his pistol, walked inside. The smell hit him first, tobacco and unwashed bodies and something sour underneath. A handful of men were scattered around the room nursing drinks or playing cards. They looked up when Nate entered, sized him up, went back to their business. Cornelius Pemberton stood behind the counter tallying figures in a ledger. He was a big man running to fat with small eyes that reminded Nate of a pig. "Help you." Pemberton didn't look up from his numbers. "You know who I am." Now Pemberton looked up, his eyes narrowed. "Blackwood. Got that spread up north?" "That's right. I found something of yours 3 days ago, out in the snow." "That's so." Pemberton's expression didn't change, but his hand drifted below the counter. Probably had a shotgun down there. "Can't think what that might be." "A child. Little girl about 9 years old. Dark red hair, green eyes. Ring any bells?" The men at the card table had stopped playing. The room had gone very quiet. "Don't know what you're talking about." Pemberton's voice was flat. "Must have me confused with somebody else." "Her name's Ellie, Eleanor McIntyre. She says she lived here for 3 years. Says your wife accused her of stealing and you threw her out into a blizzard to die. Girl's a liar and a thief. Whatever she told you, it ain't true." Nate stepped closer to the counter. "She also says you took something from her. A locket, silver with the initials VA on the back." Something flickered in Pemberton's eyes. Fear, greed. Both. "I want it back," Nate said. "Can't give back what I don't have." "That's interesting, because Ellie says you put it in your pocket right before you threw her out. She was pretty clear about that. Like I said, the girl's a liar, got a wild imagination." Pemberton's hand was definitely on that shotgun now. "Now I think you'd better leave. I got business to attend to." Nate didn't move. "I'm going to ask you one more time, nice and polite. Give me the locket. And I'm going to tell you one more time, I don't have it. Now get the hell out of my establishment before I—" Nate moved fast. His hand shot out and grabbed Pemberton's wrist before the man could bring up the shotgun. He twisted hard, heard the satisfying crack of bones shifting, and slammed Pemberton's face into the counter. The men at the card table jumped to their feet. One of them reached for his gun. "I wouldn't," Nate said, not looking away from Pemberton. "This is between me and him. Unless you boys want to make it your business, too." Nobody moved. "Now." Nate pressed harder, grinding Pemberton's cheek into the wood. "Let's try this again. Where's the locket?" "You're breaking my arm." "Not yet, but I will if you don't start talking." All right. Pemberton's voice was muffled, panicked. "It's in my pocket. Left side. Take it. Just let me go." Nate reached into the man's coat and found it immediately. Silver tarnished with a delicate chain. He flipped it open with one hand and saw the portrait inside. A dark-haired woman with sad eyes. VA. "There now." Nate released Pemberton and stepped back. "That wasn't so hard, was it?" Pemberton straightened up, face red with fury and humiliation. Blood trickled from his nose where it had hit the counter. "You're making a mistake, Blackwood. You don't know what you're messing with. Enlighten me. That girl ain't what she seems. That locket—" Pemberton stopped himself. His eyes darted to the other men in the room. "You don't know who she belongs to. She belongs to herself. And now she's under my protection." Nate pocketed the locket. "If I ever see you anywhere near my ranch, if I hear you've been asking about her or spreading lies, I'll come back here and finish what I started." "We clear?" Pemberton said nothing, just glared with those pig eyes full of hate. "I asked if we're clear." "Crystal." "Good." Nate tipped his hat to the silent men at the card table. "Gentlemen, sorry to interrupt your game." He walked out without looking back. But as he mounted smoke and turned toward home, Pemberton's words kept echoing in his head. "You don't know who she belongs to." What the hell did that mean? The ride home was faster than the ride out. Nate pushed smoke hard, that locket burning a hole in his pocket. He kept thinking about the initials. VA, about Pemberton's face when he'd mentioned them, about the fear underneath the man's bluster. There was a story here, a secret, and somehow that little girl sleeping in his guest room was at the center of it. Rosa met him in the yard, relief plain on her face. "You're back, and in one piece." "Told you I would be." Nate dismounted and handed her Smoke's reins. "Where's Ellie?" "In the kitchen. She's been watching the window all day." Rosa's eyes searched his face. "Did you get it? The locket?" Nate pulled it from his pocket. Rosa crossed herself. "Gracias a Dios. Go. Give it to her. She needs to see that you kept your word." He found Ellie exactly where Rosa said she'd be, sitting at the kitchen table, staring out the window, hands folded tight in her lap. She turned when she heard his footsteps, and her whole body tensed. "You came back. Said I would." "I know, but—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "People don't always do what they say they will, in my experience." Nate crossed to the table and sat down across from her. "Close your eyes." "What?" "Close your eyes, and hold out your hand." Ellie looked suspicious, but she did it. Nate took her hand, so small, so thin, and placed the locket in her palm. "Now open them." She opened her eyes, looked down, and burst into tears. "My locket!" She clutched it to her chest, sobbing. "You got it back. You really got it back." "Told you I would." "But how Mr. Pemberton wouldn't have just given it to you. He wanted it. I could tell by the way he looked at it." "Let's just say we had a conversation." Nate watched her open the locket, stare at the portrait inside. "That your mama?" "I don't know. I always pretended she was." Ellie traced the woman's face with her finger. "She looks kind, doesn't she? Like maybe she would have loved me. If she'd lived." "I'm sure she did love you." "You can't know that." "No. But I know somebody gave you that locket. Somebody put it around your neck when you were too young to remember. That means somebody cared." Ellie was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with those two old eyes. "Mr. Pemberton said something, didn't he? When you took it back, I can see it in your face. Smart kid. Too smart by half. He said I didn't know who you belonged to." Nate kept his voice careful. "You have any idea what that means?" "No, sir." But something flickered in her expression. Uncertainty. "I don't know nothing about where I came from, just that somebody paid the farmer to take me when I was a baby." "Somebody with money?" "I guess so. The farmer, his name was Hiram Poole. He always said I'd been left on his doorstep with a bag of gold coins and a note that said, 'Take care of her.'" Ellie shrugged. "I don't know if that's true or if he just made it up." "What happened to the note?" "He burned it. Said it was safer that way." Her voice turned bitter. "Then he sold me to the Pembertons when the money ran out. So much for taking care of me." Nate filed that information away. A bag of gold coins. A note. Somebody had gone to a lot of trouble to hide this child. The question was why. "Ellie, I want you to think hard. Did Pemberton ever say anything about your locket before the day he took it?" "No, I kept it hidden, never showed it to anybody." She frowned. "But he looked at it strange when he took it, like he'd seen it before, or like he recognized it." "The initials. VA. Do they mean anything to you?" "I've thought about it 100 times. Victoria, Virginia, Vanessa." Ellie shook her head. "Could be any name. Could be none of them." "What about Ashworth?" The word just came out. Nate didn't even know why he said it. Something about the locket, the portrait, the quality of the silver. It looked expensive. Old money expensive. And Ashworth was the biggest old money name in these parts. Ellie went pale. Why'd you say that name? I don't know. Does it mean something to you? No, but... She shivered. It feels like it should, like I've heard it before somewhere far back. The Ashworths are a family out of Boston, rich, powerful. They had a daughter about 20 years ago who disappeared. Nate was reaching now, pulling threads from half-remembered gossip. Scandal of some kind. I don't know the details. You think I'm connected to them? I don't know what I think, but I aim to find out. Ellie was quiet, staring at the locket. Then she looked up. What if you find out something bad? What if my mama was, I don't know, a criminal or something? What if I'm nobody? You're not nobody. Nate's voice came out fiercer than he intended. You're Ellie McIntyre. You're the girl who survived 3 years of hell and walked through a blizzard and didn't give up. That's somebody. That's more than somebody. Tears spilled down her cheeks again. Nobody's ever said anything like that to me before. Then nobody was paying attention. Rosa appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene with knowing eyes. Dinner is almost ready. Ellie, would you like to help me set the table? Yes, ma'am. Ellie wiped her face and stood, but she paused beside Nate's chair. Thank you, for getting my locket back. For everything. You're welcome. She hesitated, then leaned down and kissed his cheek. Quick and light like a butterfly landing. Then she was gone, following Rosa to the dining room. Nate sat alone in the kitchen for a long moment, his hand touching the place where her lips had been. Damn it. He'd told himself he wasn't going to get attached. Told himself this was temporary. The kid would heal up, he'd find her somewhere proper to go, and everything would go back to normal. But it was too late for that. He knew it now. That little girl had gotten under his skin, into his heart, and he had no idea what to do about it. Over the next few days, life at Blackwood Ranch settled into something Nate hadn't felt in 8 years. A routine. Ellie woke early before the sun sometimes. Rosa tried to get her to sleep longer, but the girl seemed physically incapable of staying in bed past dawn. Old habit, she said. The Pembertons expected her working before sunup. You don't have to work here, Nate told her over breakfast one morning. I know, but I want to. Ellie pushed her hair out of her face. I don't like sitting around doing nothing. Makes me feel useless. You're 9 years old. You're supposed to sit around doing nothing. That's what being a kid means. Ellie looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. I've never been a kid. Not really. The words hit Nate like a slap. He thought about Benjamin at 9, or what Benjamin would have been like at 9 if he'd lived. Running around the ranch, getting into trouble, being loud and messy, and wonderfully, gloriously useless. All right, he said slowly. You want to help out, that's fine. But we do it my way. No scrubbing floors on your hands and knees. No hauling water buckets that weigh more than you do. You help Rosa in the kitchen and you learn about the ranch. Real learning, not slave labor. Like what? Like horses, like cattle, like how to run a spread like this someday if you want to. Nate sipped his coffee. Every person on this ranch earns their keep by learning. Same goes for you. Something sparked in Ellie's eyes. Interest, curiosity, things that had probably been beaten out of her at the Pembertons. You'd teach me, really, if you want to learn. I do. The words came out fast, eager. I've always wanted to know about horses. The Pembertons had some, but I was never allowed near them. Then we start there. Soon as you finish your breakfast. Ellie finished her eggs in record time. An hour later, they were standing in the barn. The smell of hay and horse and leather surrounded them. Ellie's eyes were huge as she took it all in. This is Smoke, Nate said, leading her to his gelding's stall. He's the one who found you in the snow. Ellie reached out tentatively, then pulled her hand back. Can I touch him? Hold your hand out flat. Let him sniff you first. Horses like to know who they're dealing with. She did as she was told, staying very still while Smoke stretched his neck forward, and blew warm air across her palm. Then he nudged her gently, looking for treats. He likes me. Wonder filled her voice. He's got good taste. Nate pulled a sugar cube from his pocket. Hold your hand flat like this. Let him take it from you. Ellie giggled as Smoke's soft lips brushed her palm. It tickles. Now this one. Nate moved to the next stall where a gentle chestnut mare dozed in the morning light. This is Penny. She's sweet as they come. Good for beginners. Could I ride her someday? That's the plan. But first, you need to learn how to care for her. Feeding, grooming, cleaning hooves. You take care of the horse takes care of you. That's how it works. For the next hour, Nate showed Ellie the basics. How to brush a horse's coat until it gleamed. How to check for stones in the hooves. How to measure out feed. Ellie absorbed everything like a sponge, asking questions that showed she was actually listening. You're a natural, Nate told her as they walked back to the house for lunch. Really? You're not just saying that. I don't just say things. You've got good instincts with animals. They can tell when somebody's genuine. Ellie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Animals were the only ones who were nice to me. At the Pembertons. They had a mean old hound that bit everybody else. But he never bit me. Used to let me sleep next to him on cold nights. What was his name? Didn't have one. They just called him Dog. Her voice went hard. I hated that. Everything deserves a name. You're right. Everything does. They'd almost reached the house when Ellie stopped walking. Mr. Nate? He turned. Yeah? Why are you doing all this? Teaching me things, letting me stay. You don't have to. We've been over this. I know. But... She struggled for words. Most folks, when they do something nice, they want something back. That's how it works. So what do you want? Nate crouched down to her level. You want the truth? She nodded. 8 years ago, I had a son. His name was Benjamin. He died when he was 5 years old. Scarlet fever. Nate kept his voice steady, though it cost him. After that, I closed myself off. Didn't want to care about anybody or anything. Figured if I didn't care, I couldn't get hurt again. But then I found you. Half dead in the snow. And something happened. He searched for the right words. It was like God was giving me a second chance. To help somebody. To matter to somebody. Does that make sense? I think so. Ellie's eyes were wet. You lost a son. I lost a mama. Maybe that's why you found me. Maybe we're supposed to help each other. Maybe. I'm sorry about Benjamin. I bet he was a good boy. He was. Nate's throat tightened. Best boy in the world. They stood there for a long moment, the winter wind swirling around them. Then Ellie did something she hadn't done before. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Nate's waist. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Nate hugged her back, carefully, like she might break. Come on, he said when she finally let go. Rosa's gonna skin us both if we're late for lunch. Over the next week, Ellie blossomed. There was no other word for it. She was still thin, still wary, still prone to flinching at loud noises. But slowly, piece by piece, she was coming back to life. Rosa taught her to make tortillas and empanadas, filling the kitchen with the smell of warm dough and spices. Ellie proved to be a quick study, though she had a tendency to eat as much as she made. You'll get fat if you keep sneaking bites, Rosa teased. Don't care. Never had enough food before. Gonna make up for it now. You'll make yourself sick. Worth it. Rosa laughed a sound Nate hadn't heard in years. You are impossible, Nina. Thank you. In the afternoons, Nate taught Ellie about the ranch. They walked the property together, checking fences and counting cattle. Ellie asked a million questions about everything. How did you know when a cow was pregnant? Why did some horses have different markings? What happened to the beef after it was sold? You're going to know more about ranching than me by the time you're 12, Nate told her. Good. Then you can retire and I'll run everything. That's so. Somebody's got to keep this place going. You're getting old. I'm 44. Like I said, old. Nate found himself laughing more than he had in years. The house that had been so silent, so empty, was now filled with noise. Ellie's chatter, Rosa's singing, the clatter of dishes and the creak of floorboards, and all the small sounds that meant life. But underneath the warmth, a shadow lingered. Nate couldn't stop thinking about the locket, about Pemberton's words, about the mystery of where Ellie had come from. One evening, after Ellie had gone to bed, he sat in his study with a glass of whiskey and the locket in his hand. Rosa found him there, staring at the portrait inside. "You are thinking too hard again, senor." "Can't help it. Something about this doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" "Look at this locket." Nate held it up to the lamplight. "This isn't cheap jewelry. This is real silver. Old. Valuable. And the portrait that's not some farmer's wife. Look at her clothes, her hair. This woman had money. So how does a baby with an expensive locket end up with a dirt-poor farmer in the middle of nowhere who gave that farmer gold coins to take care of her? And why did Pemberton recognize the initials?" Rosa was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You think Ellie comes from a wealthy family?" "I think somebody went to a lot of trouble to hide her. And I think that somebody might still be out there, might still be looking for her. Is that good or bad? I don't know." Nate closed the locket. "That's what worries me." He didn't tell Ellie about his suspicions. Not yet. She was just starting to feel safe, just starting to trust. He didn't want to upset that by filling her head with maybes and what-ifs. But he started asking questions, quietly, carefully. He rode into town and talked to old-timers who'd been around for decades. Asked about the Ashworth family, about scandals from 20 years ago, about babies who'd disappeared. Most folks didn't know anything. But one man, a retired doctor named Henderson, gave him a long, careful look. "Why you asking about the Ashworths' Blackwood?" "Just curious." "Nobody's just curious about that family. They've got a long reach and a longer memory." Henderson lowered his voice. "There was a daughter, Victoria. She was the youngest. Pretty thing but wild. Got mixed up with some cowboy, nobody important, and next thing anyone knew, she was gone." "Gone where?" "That's the question, isn't it? Family said she went back east, to a finishing school or some such, but there were rumors." "What kind of rumors?" Henderson glanced around, making sure they weren't overheard. "Rumors that she was in the family way, that the Ashworths shipped her off to have the baby somewhere nobody would see. And after that..." He shrugged. "Nobody knows. Some say she died in childbirth. Some say she's still locked up in a sanitarium somewhere. Some say the baby was given away." V.A. Victoria Ashworth. The pieces were starting to fit together, and Nate didn't like the picture they were forming. "The Ashworths," he said slowly. "They still around. The old man died a few years back, but the sons, there are two of them. They run the family business now. Mining, railroads, banking. They've got money, power, and more lawyers than God." Henderson met Nate's eyes. "If you're thinking about getting involved with them, don't. Those people eat folks like us for breakfast." "I appreciate the warning. You're not going to listen to it, are you?" "Probably not." Henderson shook his head. "Then God help you, Blackwood, because you're going to need it." That night, Nate sat on the back porch despite the cold, turning the locket over in his hands. Victoria Ashworth. If Ellie was her daughter, then she had blood relatives. Wealthy, powerful relatives who might have been looking for her all this time. Or, and this was the part that kept Nate up at night, relatives who had paid to make her disappear. The door opened behind him. Small footsteps crossed the porch. "You should be in bed," Nate said without turning around. "Couldn't sleep." Ellie sat down beside him, wrapped in a blanket Rosa had given her. "Bad dreams." About what? The blizzard. Being cold. Being alone. She pulled the blanket tighter. I keep dreaming I'm back there, and nobody comes, and I die. You didn't die. I know. But in the dream I do. Her voice was small. I wake up and for a second, I forget where I am. I think I'm still at the Pembertons, or still in the snow, and I have to look around and remind myself I'm safe. Nate was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I have dreams like that too. You do. About Benjamin, about Sarah, about the night they died. He stared out at the moonlit snow. I dream I'm holding my boy trying to make the fever break, and nothing works. I dream my wife is calling for me, and I can't reach her. I dream they're both standing at the end of a long road walking away, and no matter how fast I run, I can't catch up. Does it ever stop, the dreams? Not yet, but it gets easier. Or maybe you just get stronger. Ellie was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Mr. Nate. Yeah. If something happens, if somebody comes to take me away, would you fight for me? Like really fight? Nate turned to look at her. Her face was pale in the moonlight, her eyes huge and worried. What makes you think somebody might come for you? I don't know. Just a feeling. She shivered. Mrs. Pemberton used to say I was more trouble than I was worth. That somebody would come looking someday and I'd get what was coming to me. I didn't know what she meant, but it scared me. Nobody's taking you anywhere. Nate's voice came out harder than he intended. You hear me? You're under my protection now. That means something. Promise? I promise, and I don't break my promises. Ellie leaned against his shoulder, and Nate let her. They sat together in the cold, watching their breath make clouds in the moonlight, and neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Ellie's eyes drifted closed. Nate carried her back to bed, tucked the blankets around her, stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, young, innocent. She didn't know that somewhere out there, powerful people might be looking for her. She didn't know that her locket might be the key to everything. She didn't know that the life she was building here could be torn apart in an instant. And Nate wasn't going to let that happen. Whatever it took, whatever it cost. He'd promised to fight for her. And Nathaniel Blackwood always kept his promises. He closed the door softly and walked to his study where a bottle of whiskey and a long night of planning waited for him. The Ashworths might have money. They might have power. They might have lawyers and influence and a reach that stretched across the country. But Nate had something they didn't. He had something worth fighting for. And God help anyone who tried to take her away. The trouble came on a Tuesday morning 2 weeks after Nate had taken back the locket. He was teaching Ellie how to saddle Penny when the sound of hooves reached them, multiple horses coming fast. Nate's hand went to his hip before he remembered he'd left his pistol in the house. Stay here, he told Ellie. Don't come out until I say. But, do as I say. He walked out of the barn to find 3 riders pulling up in his yard. 2 men he didn't recognize, hard-faced types with the look of hired muscle, and 1 woman in a severe black dress that probably cost more than most folks made in a year. The woman dismounted without waiting for help. She was maybe 50, iron gray hair pulled back, tight lips, pressed into a thin line. Mr. Nathaniel Blackwood. That's me. Who's asking? My name is Miss Harriet Price. I represent the Children's Welfare Society of the Wyoming Territory. She pulled papers from her saddlebag. We've received a report about a minor child residing at this residence without proper legal guardianship. Nate's blood went cold. That's so. And who filed this report? That information is confidential. What matters is that we investigate all claims of potential child endangerment. Endangerment. The word tasted like poison. Lady, I saved that child's life. Found her half dead in a blizzard. If I hadn't... Mr. Blackwood, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to assess the child's situation and determine appropriate placement. Miss Price's eyes swept the property. Where is she? Safe. Which is more than she was before I found her. I need to see her, to interview her, to confirm she's being properly cared for. Nate didn't move. Every instinct screamed at him to send this woman packing, to refuse to let her anywhere near Ellie. But he knew how this worked. Refuse to cooperate, and they'd come back with a marshal, with the law. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. But I'm present for any interview. And if you upset that child, we're done. That's acceptable. Nate walked to the barn, his heart hammering. Ellie was exactly where he'd left her, pressed against Penny's side, her face white with fear. Is it them? She whispered. Did they come to take me? Nobody's taking you anywhere. I promised, remember. But there's a woman here from some welfare society. She wants to talk to you. Make sure you're being treated well. Nate crouched to her level. All you have to do is tell the truth. Can you do that? Ellie nodded, but her hands were shaking. I'm going to be right there the whole time. Nothing bad is going to happen. You promise? I promise. They walked back to the yard together, Ellie's hand gripping Nate's so tight it hurt. Miss Price studied the girl with cold, assessing eyes. You must be Eleanor. Ellie. The word came out barely above a whisper. People call me Ellie. Very well, Ellie. I have some questions for you. Would you like to go inside where it's warm? Rosa had appeared on the porch, her expression thunderous. She said nothing as they filed into the kitchen, but her eyes promised violence if anyone tried to harm the child. Miss Price sat at the table and gestured for Ellie to sit across from her. Nate stood against the wall, arms crossed, watching every move. Now, Ellie. Miss Price's voice softened slightly. Can you tell me how you came to be living here? Ellie looked at Nate. He nodded encouragingly. Mr. Nate found me. Her voice was steadier now. In the snow. I was dying, and he saved me. And before that, where were you living? With the Pembertons. At their trading post. Were the Pembertons your family? No, ma'am. They bought me. Miss Price's pen paused on her notepad. Bought you. From a farmer named Hiram Poole. He said somebody paid him to raise me when I was a baby, but when the money ran out, he sold me to the Pembertons. Ellie's jaw tightened. For $20. I see. And how did you come to leave the Pembertons? They threw me out. Mrs. Pemberton said I stole her ring, but I didn't. I never stole nothing in my whole life. Ellie's voice cracked. They threw me out into the blizzard with nothing but a bundle of bread and told me to go. I almost died. Miss Price wrote something in her notebook. That's quite an accusation. It's not an accusation. It's what happened. Mr. Pemberton tells a different story. He says you ran away after being caught stealing. Mr. Pemberton is a liar. Ellie's eyes flashed. He also stole my locket. The only thing I had from my mama. Mr. Nate had to go get it back for me. Is this true, Mr. Blackwood? Every word. Nate kept his voice level. I rode to Pemberton's trading post myself. The man admitted he'd taken the locket. He also said some things that made me think there's more to Ellie's story than anybody knows. What kind of things? He said I didn't know who she belonged to. Like somebody out there has a claim on her. Nate's jaw tightened. If that's true, I want to know about it. But whoever they are, they sure as hell haven't been taking care of her for the past 9 years. Miss Price studied him for a long moment. Then she turned back to Ellie. How are you being treated here, Ellie? Are you fed properly, clothed? Do you have a place to sleep? I have my own room. Wonder crept into Ellie's voice despite her fear. With a real bed and blankets and everything. Rosa, she's Mr. Nate's housekeeper. She makes me 3 meals a day. She's teaching me to cook and sew. And Mr. Nate is teaching me about horses and ranching. Do they hit you? What? Ellie looked genuinely shocked. No, nobody's ever hit me here. Mr. Nate would never. It's a standard question. Miss Price's tone was clinical. I have to ask. Well, the answer is no. This is the first place in my whole life where nobody's hurt me. Ellie's voice trembled. Please don't take me away, please. I'll die if I have to go back to people like the Pembertons. I have no intention of sending you back to the Pembertons. Miss Price closed her notebook. But Mr. Blackwood, we do have a problem. What kind of problem? You're a single man with no legal claim to this child. You're not a blood relative. You haven't filed adoption papers. In the eyes of the law, you're essentially holding her without authority. I'm protecting her from the people who tried to kill her. I believe you. For the first time, Miss Price's expression softened. I've been doing this work for 20 years, Mr. Blackwood. I know a good situation when I see one. This child is healthier, happier, and safer than she's been in years. That's obvious. Then what's the problem? The problem is that the law doesn't care about obvious. The law cares about paperwork. And right now you have none. She stood. I'm going to file a report saying the child is in good care. But I have to be honest with you, if someone with a legal claim comes forward, there's nothing I can do. Who would have a legal claim? Blood relatives, legal guardians, anyone who can prove a prior connection. Miss Price gathered her things. My advice, get a lawyer, file for legal adoption, and do it fast. After she left, Nate stood at the window, watching her ride away with her 2 guards. She's going to take me. Ellie's voice came from behind him, small and broken. I knew it. I knew this was too good to last. Nate turned. Ellie was standing in the kitchen doorway, tears streaming down her face. Rosa stood behind her, one hand on the girl's shoulder. Nobody's taking you, Nate said. You heard her. You don't have papers. You don't have any claim. If somebody comes, then we'll fight them. How? You can't fight the law. Watch me. Rosa stepped forward, her expression troubled. Senor Nate, may I speak with you alone? Ellie looked between them, fear still etched on her face. Rosa knelt beside her. Go to your room, Nina. Work on your sewing. Everything will be all right. You don't know that. I do. Rosa's voice was firm. I know it because I know Senor Nate, and I know he would move heaven and earth for you. Now go. Let us talk. Ellie went her footsteps slow on the stairs. When they were alone, Rosa turned to Nate with an expression he'd never seen before. Determined, resolute, a little afraid. I have been thinking about this since she came to us, about what to do if someone tried to take her. And there is a way. One way to give you legal standing. Rosa took a breath. Marry me. Nate stared at her. What? Marry me. Not for love, not for romance, for Ellie. Rosa's hands were clasped tight in front of her. The welfare woman said you're a single man, but if you had a wife, if we adopted her together as a married couple, it would be different. Harder to challenge. Rosa, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. She stepped closer, her dark eyes intense. I have loved that child since the moment I saw her. I would do anything to protect her. And She stopped, started again. And I care for you, Senor Nate. I have for many years. This would not be a hardship for me. Nate didn't know what to say. Rosa had been part of his life for so long he'd stopped really seeing her. She was just there, constant, reliable, essential. He'd never thought about her as anything more. But now, looking at her face, he saw something he'd missed. Devotion. Patience. A quiet love that had been waiting for years. You'd really do this? He asked. Tie yourself to a broken-down rancher for the sake of a child who isn't even yours. She is mine. In every way that matters, she is mine. Rosa's voice cracked. I lost a daughter 30 years ago. Elena. She would have been Ellie's age now if she had lived. When I look at that girl, I see everything I lost, everything I never got to have. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please, Senor Nate, let me be her mother. Let me help you protect her. Something shifted in Nate's chest. Something that had been frozen for 8 years began to thaw. He thought about Sarah, about how much she had loved him, about how she would want him to be happy to find someone to keep living even after she was gone. He thought about Benjamin, about the family he'd lost, about the empty rooms and the silent nights and the grief that never quite went away. And he thought about Ellie, about her laughter and her questions and the way she'd kissed his cheek that day in the kitchen, about the promise he'd made to fight for her. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's do it." Rosa let out a breath she'd been holding. "You mean it?" "I mean it. But Rosa..." He took her hands in his. "I can't promise you love. Not yet. I don't know if I'm capable of it anymore. I'm not asking for love. I'm asking for a chance." She squeezed his hands. "Give me that, and I'll be grateful. You deserve better. What I deserve is to be happy. For the first time in 30 years, I think I might be." Rosa smiled through her tears. "Now we should tell Ellie. She's upstairs convinced she's about to be torn away from us." They found Ellie curled up on her bed, clutching her locket, her sewing forgotten on the floor. She sat up when they entered, her eyes red and swollen. "Are they sending me away?" "No, mija." Rosa sat beside her on the bed. "Quite the opposite." "What do you mean?" Nate sat on Ellie's other side. "Rosa and I are getting married." Ellie's mouth fell open. "You're what?" "Getting married. And then we're going to adopt you, legally, properly, so that nobody can ever take you away." "But..." Ellie looked between them, stunned. "You're not in love. Are you?" "There are many kinds of love," Rosa said gently. "There is passionate love, yes, but there is also the love of shared purpose, of companionship, of building something together." She brushed a strand of hair from Ellie's face. "That is the love Senor Nate and I share, and it is more than enough." "So I'd be..." Ellie's voice caught. "I'd really be your daughter, both of yours. If you want to be." "If I want to be..." Ellie threw herself at Rosa, wrapping her arms around her neck. "Yes, yes, I want to be. More than anything." Rosa held her tight, tears streaming down her face. Over Ellie's shoulder, she met Nate's eyes. "Thank you," she mouthed. Nate nodded. He didn't trust himself to speak. Ellie pulled back, wiping her face. Then she turned and hugged Nate too, nearly knocking him off the bed. "Thank you, Papa." The word came out before she could stop it. She froze, pulling back. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I shouldn't have..." "It's fine." Nate's voice was rough. "You can call me that, if you want to." "Really? Really?" Ellie's face broke into the brightest smile Nate had ever seen. "Papa," she said again, testing the word. "And Mama Rosa. I have a mama and a papa." "You do, Nina." Rosa pulled her close again. "You do." They got married 4 days later. It wasn't much of a ceremony. Just the three of them, a circuit preacher who happened to be passing through, and Hector Valdez as witness. They said their vows in the main room of the ranch house, with snow falling outside the windows and a fire crackling in the hearth. Ellie stood between them, holding both their hands. "Do you, Nathaniel James Blackwood, take this woman?" "I do." "And do you, Rosalinda Elena Santos, take this man?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." The preacher smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Nate turned to Rosa. She looked different today, softer somehow, in a dress she'd borrowed from a neighbor. Her dark eyes were bright with tears. He kissed her gently, briefly. A promise, more than a passion. Ellie cheered. "Does this mean I can call you Mama now?" she asked Rosa. "For real. For real, mija. Forever." That night, after Ellie had gone to bed, Nate and Rosa sat together in the kitchen. 2 cups of coffee between them. Rings on their fingers. A new world spreading out before them. "What happens now?" Rosa asked. "We file adoption papers. Make Ellie legally ours. And then, Nate paused. Then we wait. See if anybody comes forward to challenge us. Do you think they will? I don't know. But I keep thinking about what Pemberton said. About who Ellie belongs to. He turned his coffee cup in his hands. I did some asking around in town about the Ashworth family. What did you learn? They had a daughter named Victoria. 20 years ago, she got involved with some cowboy and ended up pregnant. The family shipped her off to have the baby somewhere quiet. After that, nobody knows what happened to her, or to the child. Rosa's eyes widened. You think Ellie? The locket has the initials V.A., Victoria Ashworth. Nate met her gaze. It fits Rosa. The expensive locket, the bag of gold coins, the secrecy. Somebody wanted that baby to disappear. But if the Ashworths are Ellie's family, they might come for her. They've got money lawyers' power if they decide they want her back. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Rosa's hand found his under the table. Then we fight, she said simply. Whatever comes, whoever comes, we fight. Together. Together. The storm that had been building on the horizon broke a week after the wedding. Nate was in the barn grooming Smoke when he heard horses approaching, more than one, moving fast. He grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. 3 riders came over the ridge. 2 of them were the same hard-faced men who'd accompanied Miss Price. The third was a stranger, a thin, sharp-featured man in an expensive suit who looked completely out of place on horseback. Mr. Blackwood. The thin man's voice was cultured Eastern. My name is Walter Grimsby. I'm an attorney representing the Ashworth family of Boston. Nate's grip tightened on the rifle. What do you want? I believe you have something that belongs to my clients. Grimsby's smile didn't reach his eyes. Or rather, someone. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play games with me, Mr. Blackwood. We know about the girl. We know about the locket. We know everything. Grimsby dismounted and straightened his coat. The Ashworth family has been searching for their lost granddaughter for 9 years. Imagine their joy when they learned she'd finally been found. Granddaughter. The word tasted sour. Funny, nobody seemed too concerned about finding her when she was being beaten and starved and sold like property. An unfortunate situation, one that the family deeply regrets, but that's all in the past now. They want to bring Eleanor home, give her the life she deserves. She has a life. Here, with me and my wife. Grimsby's eyebrows rose. Your wife. My understanding was that you were unmarried. Things change. I got married last week, to my housekeeper. We've filed for legal adoption of Eleanor. Something flickered in Grimsby's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or calculation. That is unexpected, but ultimately irrelevant. The Ashworths are blood relatives. Their claim supersedes any adoption. Not if the adoption is finalized before you can challenge it. Oh, we'll challenge it. Make no mistake. Grimsby's smile sharpened. We have documents proving Eleanor's identity. Birth records, testimony from the doctor who delivered her, a sworn statement from the farmer who was paid to take her. He paused. Yes, Mr. Poole was quite helpful once we found him. Money has a way of loosening tongues. So the Ashworths paid to have Ellie hidden. Then they paid to find her again. What changed? The old man died, the original patriarch. He was the one who insisted the child be hidden, claimed she was an embarrassment to the family name. Grimsby shrugged. His sons feel differently. They want to right an old wrong. Bring their niece home where she belongs. And if Ellie doesn't want to go, she's a child. She doesn't get to choose. Like hell she doesn't. Grimsby sighed as if dealing with a particularly slow student. Mr. Blackwood, you seem like a reasonable man. The Ashworths are willing to compensate you for your trouble. $10,000. More than this ranch is worth, I'd wager. Take the money, let the girl go, and everyone walks away happy. Except Ellie. She'll adjust. Children always do. No. I'm sorry. I said no. Nate raised the rifle slightly. Ellie stays here. She's my daughter now, legally and rightfully. You want her, you'll have to go through the courts. And through me. Grimsby studied him for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Very well. If that's how you want to play it. But I should warn you, Mr. Blackwood, the Ashworths don't lose. They have more money and more lawyers than you could imagine. They'll bury you in legal fees. They'll drag this out for years. And in the end, they'll still get what they want. Maybe. But they'll bleed for it. So will you. And so will the girl. Grimsby mounted his horse. Think about it. Think about what's really best for her. A life of poverty on a frontier ranch, or a life of wealth and privilege with one of the oldest families in America. Get off my land. Grimsby tipped his hat. We'll be in touch, Mr. Blackwood, very soon. Nate watched them ride away, his heart pounding. Rosa appeared at his elbow. I heard. The Ashworths, they know about Ellie. They know everything, and they're coming for her. What do we do? Nate thought about the $10,000, about what that money could mean for the ranch for their future, about how easy it would be to just let Ellie go. Then he thought about her face, her laugh, the way she called him Papa. We fight, he said, like we promised. Even if we can't win, especially then. Rosa nodded slowly. Then we need a lawyer, a good one, someone who isn't afraid of money or power. I know someone, Bartholomew Preston out of Cheyenne. He's handled cases against rich folks before. Nate's jaw tightened. I'll ride out tomorrow. See if he'll take us on. And Ellie? Do we tell her? Nate looked toward the house where Ellie was probably working on her lessons, unaware that her whole world was about to be threatened again. We tell her. She deserves to know. He squared his shoulders. But we tell her together, and we make damn sure she understands that we're not giving up. Not now, not ever. They found Ellie in the kitchen practicing her letters at the table. She looked up when they entered, and her smile faltered when she saw their faces. What's wrong? Sit down, mija. Rosa took her hand. We need to talk. And they told her everything. About Victoria Ashworth. About the locket. About the wealthy family that wanted to claim her. Ellie listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. So they want to take me away? She asked when they finished. These Ashworth people, they want to try, Nate said. But... And they're rich. Really rich. Yes, but that doesn't mean... Then they'll win. Ellie's voice was flat, dead. Rich people always win. That's how the world works. Not this time. Nate knelt beside her chair. Listen to me, Ellie. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care how many lawyers they throw at us. You are my daughter, mine and Rosa's. And we will fight for you until there's no fight left. But why? Why would you do that? I'm nobody. I'm just... You're not nobody. Rosa's voice cracked. You are everything. Everything to us. Don't you understand that? Tears spilled down Ellie's cheeks. I thought I was finally safe. I thought... You are safe. Nate gripped her shoulders. Right here. With us. No matter what happens, you are safe. What if they take me? What if the law says I have to go? Then I'll break you out. I'll take you somewhere they can't find you. Mexico. Canada. The ends of the earth if I have to. Nate's voice was fierce. I promised you I'd fight for you, Ellie. And I don't break my promises. Ever. Ellie looked at him with those two old eyes. Then she looked at Rosa. You really want me, even though I might bring all this trouble. Mija. Rosa cupped her face in both hands. You are worth any amount of trouble, any amount of pain, any amount of risk. Don't you know that by now? Ellie threw herself into Rosa's arms, sobbing. Nate watched them hold each other, and something hardened inside him. A determination that went deeper than bone. The Ashworths thought they could take his daughter, thought their money and their power made them untouchable. They were wrong. Nathaniel Blackwood had lost one family already, lost a wife and a son, and nearly lost his mind to grief. He would not lose another. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, however long it took, he would fight. And God help anyone who stood in his way. Bartholomew Preston was not what Nate expected. The lawyer was a small man, barely 5'5", with spectacles that made his eyes look twice their size, and a suit that had seen better days. He didn't look like someone who could take on the wealthiest family in the territory. But when he spoke, everything changed. The Ashworths. Preston leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I've been waiting 20 years for a chance to go after those bastards. You know them? I know what they did to my sister. Preston's voice went cold. She worked for them, as a maid. When the old man's son got her pregnant, they threw her out on the street, paid her off to keep quiet. She drank herself to death within a year. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Preston stood and began pacing his cramped office. Tell me everything, from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. Nate told him about finding Ellie in the snow, about the Pembertons, about the locket and the initials and everything he'd learned about Victoria Ashworth. Preston listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a scrap of paper. This is good, he said when Nate finished. Better than good. The Ashworths have skeletons, Mr. Blackwood. Lots of them. And you've just handed me the key to the closet. What do you mean? Victoria Ashworth didn't just disappear. She died, in childbirth, in a charity hospital in Denver, under a false name. Preston's eyes glittered. I've suspected it for years, but could never prove it. If your Ellie is her daughter, then we have documentation. Birth records, death certificates, a paper trail that leads right back to the family that abandoned her. How does that help us? It proves intent. The Ashworths didn't lose track of this child. They deliberately disposed of her, paid people to hide her, made sure she'd never be found. Preston smiled grimly. That's not the action of a loving family that wants their granddaughter back. That's the action of people who wanted her to disappear. So why do they want her now? That's the question, isn't it? Preston sat back down, drumming his fingers on the desk. The old man is dead. The sons are running things now. Something must have changed. Some reason why they suddenly need this girl. What kind of reason? Money, most likely. There's always money. Preston thought for a moment. I need to do some digging. Look into the family finances. See if there's something in the old man's will that might explain this. How long will that take? A few weeks, maybe more. Preston met Nate's eyes. Can you keep the girl safe that long? I'll keep her safe as long as it takes. Good. Because once we go to court, the Ashworths are going to throw everything they have at us. Money, influence, witnesses who'll say whatever they're paid to say. Preston stood and offered his hand. This won't be easy, Mr. Blackwood. But I promise you, I'll fight like hell. That's all I ask. The weeks that followed were tense. Ellie tried to act normal, but Nate could see the fear lurking behind her eyes. She flinched at every unexpected sound. Had nightmares almost every night. Started carrying her locket everywhere, clutching it like a talisman. What if they come while you're away? She asked one morning, watching Nate saddle smoke. What if they just take me? Rosa's here. Hector and the boys are here. Nobody's getting anywhere near you. But what if... Ellie. Nate crouched down to her level. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I trust you. It's them I don't trust. That's fair. But here's what I know. He took her hands in his. The Ashworths think they can buy anything. Think their money makes them untouchable. But they've never gone up against someone like me. Someone who's got nothing to lose and everything to fight for. You have plenty to lose. The ranch, your money, everything. None of that matters. Not compared to you." Ellie's eyes filled with tears. Why do you care so much? I'm just some orphan you found in the snow." "You're my daughter." The words came out fierce and sure. "I don't care how we got here. I don't care about blood or paperwork or what the law says. You're mine, and nobody takes what's mine." Ellie threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. "I love you, Papa," she whispered. "I never said that to anyone before. But I love you." Something cracked open in Nate's chest, something that had been frozen since the day he buried Sarah and Benjamin. "I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know." 3 weeks later, Preston arrived at the ranch with news. "I found it," he said, barely waiting until he was through the door. "The reason they want her, it's the will." "What about it?" Old man Ashworth was a complicated piece of work. Loved his daughter Victoria more than his sons apparently. When she died, he changed his will. Left everything, the whole estate, in trust for her child. Nate felt the blood drain from his face. Everything? Mines, railroads, banks, real estate. We're talking millions, Mr. Blackwood. Maybe tens of millions. Preston's expression was grim. "But here's the catch. The inheritance can only be claimed if the child is raised by a family member. If not, the whole estate goes to charity. So the sons get nothing unless they can prove Ellie is Victoria's daughter and establish themselves as her guardians." Preston shook his head. "They don't give a damn about that girl. They just want her inheritance. But if they raise her, they control the money until she turns 21, and a lot can happen in 12 years. Accidents, illnesses, a young girl dying tragically before she comes of age." Preston's voice was flat. "It's happened before. With the Ashworths specifically." Nate's hands curled into fists. "You're saying they might hurt her?" "I'm saying they have millions of reasons to make sure she never sees her 21st birthday, and a history of making problems disappear." Rosa appeared in the doorway, her face white. "Madre de Dios, these people, they're monsters." "They're worse than monsters. They're respectable." Preston's mouth twisted. "That's what makes them dangerous. Nobody believes the nice rich family from Boston could do anything wrong." "So what do?" Nate asked. "We fight. Harder than ever." Preston pulled papers from his satchel. "I've subpoenaed the Ashworth family records, the birth certificate, Victoria's death certificate. Everything that proves they knew about Ellie and chose to abandon her. If we can show the judge that they're only interested in her money, not her welfare, then we might win. Then we might have a chance." Preston met his eyes. "It's not much, but it's something." The hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Nate barely slept the night before. He sat in his study, staring at the fire running through every possible outcome in his head. Most of them ended badly. Rosa found him there near midnight. "You should rest," she said quietly. "Can't. Too much at stake." She sat beside him, taking his hand. "Whatever happens tomorrow, you've done everything you could, more than anyone could ask. It's not enough. It might never be enough." "Nate." It was the first time she'd called him by his name without the senor in front of it. "Listen to me. Whatever that judge decides, Ellie knows she's loved. She knows what it feels like to have a family. That's something the Ashworths can never take away. They can take her. That's enough. Then we'll get her back, somehow, some way." Rosa's voice was fierce. "I didn't survive losing my daughter and my husband to give up now. I didn't wait 30 years for a second chance at happiness just to let it slip away." Nate looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd stood by him through everything. Who'd offered herself to save a child she barely knew. Who'd loved him quietly, patiently for years, without expecting anything in return. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For not seeing you. All these years you were right here, and I was too wrapped up in my own grief to notice. You see me now. That's what matters." He leaned forward and kissed her. Not gently this time. Not a promise or an obligation. A real kiss full of gratitude and respect, and something that might give in time become love. When they pulled apart, Rose's eyes were bright with tears. "Well," she said softly, "that took you long enough." "I'm a slow learner." "Yes, but you're worth waiting for." They sat together until dawn, not speaking, just holding hands. When the sun came up, they woke Ellie and got ready for the fight of their lives. The courthouse in Cheyenne was packed. Word had spread about the case, the rich Eastern family trying to claim an orphan girl from a frontier rancher. People had come from miles around to see how it played out. Nate sat at the defense table with Rosa and Ellie. Preston was beside them, organizing papers with calm efficiency. Across the aisle, the Ashworth contingent filled an entire row. Two well-dressed men in their 40s, the sons Nate assumed. Grimsby the lawyer, and a small army of assistants and clerks. The older of the two Ashworth brothers caught Nate's eye and smiled. Cold, superior. The smile of a man who'd never lost at anything in his life. Nate smiled back. Just as cold. Judge Morrison entered and everyone rose. He was an older man, white-haired and stern-faced, with the look of someone who'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Be seated." Morrison shuffled some papers. "We're here today in the matter of Ashworth v. Blackwood regarding the custody of the minor child Eleanor McIntyre, also known as Eleanor Ashworth. Mr. Grimsby, you may begin." Grimsby stood, buttoning his expensive jacket. "Your Honor, this is a simple case. My clients Randolph and Marcus Ashworth are the rightful uncles of Eleanor Ashworth, the only living child of their late sister Victoria. For 9 years, this child has been lost, hidden away by unscrupulous individuals who were paid to keep her existence a secret." Objection. Preston was on his feet. Those unscrupulous individuals were paid by the Ashworth family themselves. "Mr. Preston, you'll have your chance." Morrison fixed him with a stern look. "Continue, Mr. Grimsby." "Thank you, Your Honor. The Ashworths have recently learned of Eleanor's whereabouts and have come to claim her. They wish to give her a proper home, a proper education, and access to the inheritance that is rightfully hers." "And the current guardians?" "Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood have no legal claim to the child. They found her abandoned and chose to keep her without notifying the proper authorities. While their intentions may have been good, the law is clear. Blood relatives have prior claim." "Thank you." Morrison turned. "Mr. Preston." Preston stood slowly, deliberately. "Your Honor, I'd like to start by correcting some misrepresentations. My clients did notify the authorities. A representative of the Children's Welfare Society visited their home and found Eleanor to be well cared for and thriving. I have her report here." He handed the document to the bailiff who passed it to the judge. "Furthermore, I intend to prove that the Ashworth family didn't lose this child. They abandoned her, deliberately, cruelly, and now they seek to reclaim her not out of love or family feeling, but out of simple greed." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Morrison banged his gavel. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Preston. I hope you have evidence to support it." "I do, Your Honor. Substantial evidence." The morning session was brutal. Grimsby called witness after witness, doctors, lawyers, family friends, all testifying to the Ashworths' good character and their desperate search for their lost niece. It was clearly rehearsed, clearly bought, but it was effective. When it was Preston's turn to cross-examine, he was merciless. "Dr. Pemberton." Preston circled the witness stand like a shark. "You testified that you knew Victoria Ashworth personally, that she was beloved by her family." "That's correct." "Then perhaps you can explain why, when she became pregnant, her family sent her away to have her baby alone in a charity hospital under a false name." The doctor's face reddened. I don't know anything about that." "You don't?" "That's strange, because I have records here showing that you were the physician who signed Victoria's death certificate, the one that lists her cause of death as complications from childbirth, and her name as Mary Jones." Gasps from the gallery. Grimsby was on his feet. "Objection. This is overruled." Morrison leaned forward, eyes sharp. Answer the question, doctor. I... The doctor looked at the Ashworth brothers, then back at Preston. I was asked to maintain confidentiality. For the family's sake. For the family's sake, not for Victoria's sake, not for her baby's sake. Preston's voice dripped contempt. Because the family's reputation was more important than a young woman's life, more important than an innocent child. Objection. Withdrawn. No further questions. The afternoon was worse. Grimsby called a parade of character witnesses for the Ashworths. Businessmen, politicians, society ladies, all vouching for the family's integrity and their sincere desire to care for their niece. Through it all, Ellie sat rigid between Nate and Rosa, her hands clutched so tight her knuckles were white. "You okay?" Nate whispered. "They're lying." Her voice shook with anger. "All of them. They don't care about me. They just want... I know. Preston knows. We just have to prove it." When the court recessed for the day, they walked out into the cold afternoon air. Nate could feel the Ashworth's eyes on them, confident and predatory. "Tomorrow," Preston said quietly. "Tomorrow, we put Ellie on the stand. Tomorrow, we fight back." Is that wise, putting her through that? It's necessary. The judge needs to hear from her, needs to see what she's been through. Preston met Nate's eyes. "She's a strong girl. She can handle it. She's 9 years old. I know, but she's also our best weapon. When that judge hears her story, really hears it, he'll understand what kind of people the Ashworths really are." That night, Ellie couldn't sleep. Nate found her in the kitchen of the boarding house they'd rented, sitting at the table with her locket open in front of her. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. Those men, looking at me like I'm something they bought." She shivered. "They don't see me as a person, just as money." "I know." Nate sat across from her. "I'm sorry you have to go through this." "It's not your fault. None of it is." Ellie traced the portrait in her locket. "Do you think she knew my mother, that they'd do this to me?" "I think she loved you. I think she wanted you to be safe." Nate paused. "And I think the Ashworths took that choice away from her, just like they're trying to take you away from us." "Mr. Preston says I have to testify tomorrow." "You don't have to if you don't want to." "No, I want to." Ellie's jaw set with a determination that made her look older than her years. "They've been talking about me all day like I'm not even there, like I'm just a thing to be claimed. I want them to hear my voice. I want them to know what they did." "Ellie, I'm not scared of them." Her eyes met his, fierce and bright. "I used to be scared of everything, of the Pembertons, of the cold, of being alone. But I'm not alone anymore. I have you and Mama Rosa. And as long as I have you, I'm not scared of anything." Nate reached across the table and took her hand. "That's my girl." The next morning, Ellie took the stand. She looked tiny in the witness chair, her feet barely touching the floor. The whole courtroom had gone quiet, every eye fixed on this small girl who held the key to millions. Preston approached her gently. "Ellie, I know this is difficult, but I need you to tell the judge what happened to you, starting from the beginning." Ellie took a breath, and then she started talking. She told them about the farmer who'd raised her like livestock, barely acknowledging her existence. About being sold to the Pembertons for $20. About 3 years of beatings and starvation, and being told she was worthless. She told them about the blizzard, about walking until she couldn't walk anymore, about lying in the snow waiting to die. And she told them about Nate. "He could have left me there," she said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "He could have ridden right past and nobody would have known. But he didn't. He stopped. He saved me. He took me home and made me part of his family." "And how do the Blackwoods treat you?" "Like I matter." The words came out fierce. "Like I'm a person, not a burden. They feed me and teach me and take care of me when I'm sick. Mr. Nate is showing me how to run a ranch. Mama Rosa is teaching me to cook and sew." Ellie's voice cracked. Nobody ever wanted me before. Not ever. But they want me. They chose me. And the Ashworths. Your biological family. Ellie looked directly at the two brothers in the front row. They shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. They're not my family. Family doesn't throw you away. Family doesn't pay people to hide you. Family doesn't show up 9 years later just because you're worth something now. Her voice rose. I didn't matter to them when I was starving. I didn't matter when I was being beaten. I only matter now because I have money they want. Objection. Grimsby was on his feet. The witness is speculating about my client's motives. Sustained. Morrison looked at Ellie with an expression Nate couldn't read. Young lady, please confine yourself to facts. Those are the facts. Ellie didn't flinch. They had 9 years to find me. 9 years to care. They didn't. And now they want to take me away from the only real family I've ever had. How is that not about money? The courtroom erupted. Morrison banged his gavel repeatedly. Order, order. He glared at both tables. We'll take a 30-minute recess. When we return, I expect decorum from everyone involved. During the recess, Preston was practically vibrating with energy. She was magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. He gripped Nate's arm. Did you see Morrison's face? She got to him, I could tell. Is that enough? I don't know. But it's more than we had before. When court resumed, Grimsby cross-examined Ellie with practiced aggression. Miss McIntyre, or should I say, Miss Ashworth, isn't it true that you've known the Blackwoods for less than 2 months? Yes. And in that short time, you've decided they're your real family? Yes. Don't you think that's rather hasty? That perhaps you're too young to make such an important decision? Ellie looked him dead in the eyes. I'm old enough to know when someone loves me. And I'm old enough to know when they don't. Grimsby pressed on, trying to shake her testimony, trying to make her seem confused or manipulated. But Ellie held firm. Every question, every insinuation she met head on. By the time she stepped down from the stand, even the Ashworth brothers looked unsettled. Preston called his final witness, a banker from Denver, who'd handled the trust set up in Ellie's name. Mr. Thornton, can you explain the terms of the Ashworth Trust as they pertain to Eleanor? Certainly. The trust was established by the late Jeremiah Ashworth upon the death of his daughter Victoria. It places the entirety of the Ashworth estate in trust for Victoria's child to be inherited upon reaching the age of 21. And if the child doesn't reach 21, then the estate reverts to a charitable foundation. The other Ashworth heirs receive nothing. Murmurs swept the courtroom. So the Ashworth brothers have a financial interest in controlling Eleanor until she turns 21. Objection leading the witness. I'll rephrase. Mr. Thornton, who controls the trust assets while the child is a minor. Her legal guardian. They have full discretion over investments, expenditures, and distributions from the trust. Full discretion. So a guardian could theoretically drain the trust completely before the child ever sees a penny. Thornton hesitated. Theoretically, yes, although there are safeguards. Thank you. No further questions. Grimsby tried to recover in his closing argument, painting the Ashworths as loving relatives who only wanted what was best for their niece. But the damage was done. Everyone in that courtroom knew what this case was really about. Preston's closing was brief but devastating. Your Honor, this case isn't complicated. A wealthy family abandoned a child because she was inconvenient. They paid to hide her, then forgot about her for 9 years. Now they want her back, not because they love her, not because they care about her welfare, but because she stands between them and a fortune. He gestured toward Nate, Rosa, and Ellie. These people, the Blackwoods, they didn't have to take Eleanor in. They didn't have to love her, protect her, fight for her. But they did. Not for money, not for status, simply because it was the right thing to do. Preston turned back to the judge. The law may favor blood relatives, but Eleanor isn't just a set of chromosomes. She's a living, breathing child who has finally found a home. Don't take that away from her. Don't reward the people who threw her away. Do what's right." He sat down. Judge Morrison looked at both parties for a long moment. Then he gathered his papers. "I'll render my decision tomorrow morning. Court is adjourned." The night before the verdict, nobody slept. Nate paced the boarding house floor until Rosa made him stop. Ellie sat by the window watching the street below her, locket clutched in her hands. "What if he says no?" she whispered. "What if I have to go with them?" "Then we appeal." Nate's voice was steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "We fight. We never stop fighting." "But, Ellie?" He knelt beside her. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know something. You changed my life. You and Rosa, you gave me something to live for again. No matter what that judge says, no matter where you end up, that won't change. You're my daughter. Always." Ellie threw her arms around him. "I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave home." "I know, sweetheart. I know." Rosa joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. The three of them stayed like that for a long time, holding on to each other in the darkness. Tomorrow would come, whether they were ready or not. All they could do was face it together. The courtroom was silent as Judge Morrison took his seat. Nate's heart hammered against his ribs. Beside him, Rosa gripped his hand so tight her knuckles were white. Ellie sat between them, pale but determined. Across the aisle, the Ashworth brothers looked confident. Grimsby was already smiling as if the verdict was a foregone conclusion. Morrison shuffled his papers, cleared his throat. "I've given this case a great deal of thought," he began. "The law is clear on matters of custody. Blood relatives have primary claim. That is the standard we apply in cases like this." Nate's stomach dropped. "However," Morrison looked up, "the law also recognizes that the welfare of the child must be the paramount concern. And in this case, I have serious concerns about placing Eleanor with the Ashworth family." The smile faded from Grimsby's face. "The evidence shows that the Ashworth family deliberately abandoned Eleanor at birth. They paid individuals to hide her existence. They made no effort to locate her for 9 years, and their sudden interest in her welfare coincides exactly with their discovery that she stands to inherit a substantial fortune." Morrison's voice hardened. "I do not believe for one moment that Randolph and Marcus Ashworth are motivated by familial love. I believe they are motivated by greed, and I will not place a child in the custody of people who view her as nothing more than a financial asset." Ellie made a small sound. Nate squeezed her hand. "Furthermore, I am deeply disturbed by the testimony regarding Eleanor's treatment prior to being found by Mr. Blackwood. She was abused, starved, and ultimately abandoned to die in a blizzard. The chain of custody that led to this treatment originated with the Ashworth family's decision to dispose of her." Morrison looked directly at the Ashworth brothers. "You are not victims in this case, gentlemen. You are perpetrators. Your family created the circumstances that nearly cost this child her life. And now you expect me to reward you with custody." Randolph Ashworth was on his feet. "Your Honor, this is outrageous." "Sit down, Mr. Ashworth." Morrison's voice was ice. "I am not finished." Ashworth sat. "As for Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood," Morrison's expression softened slightly. "I have rarely seen a clearer example of genuine parental love. They took in a stranger's child, cared for her, protected her, and fought for her against overwhelming odds. They didn't do it for money or recognition. They did it because it was right." He picked up his gavel. "It is the ruling of this court that custody of Eleanor McIntyre, Eleanor Blackwood, is hereby granted to Nathaniel and Rosalinda Blackwood. The adoption proceedings they have initiated will proceed without interference. The Ashworth family's claim is denied, and they are hereby ordered to have no contact with the child." The gavel came down. "Court is adjourned." For a moment, Nate couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe what he'd just heard. Then Ellie screamed, not in fear, in joy. She threw herself at Nate, then at Rosa, then at both of them together. She was crying and laughing and saying, Thank you, thank you, thank you, over and over again. Preston was shaking hands with everyone he could reach. Rosa was sobbing into Nate's shoulder. And Nate just held on to his family and let the tears come. They'd won. Against all odds, against money and power, and everything the Ashworths could throw at them, they'd won. Across the aisle, Grimsby was already packing up his briefcase, his face a mask of professional disappointment. The Ashworth brothers looked stunned, like they'd never lost anything in their lives, and didn't know how to process it. Randolph Ashworth caught Nate's eye. His expression was pure venom. This isn't over, Blackwood. That girl has our blood, our name, our inheritance. Nate met his gaze without flinching. She has my name now, and that's the only name that matters. He took Ellie's hand in his, right Rosa's in his left, and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. Outside, the winter sun was shining. The air was cold and clean and full of possibility. We won. Ellie's voice was full of wonder. We actually won. We did. Nate lifted her up and hugged her tight. You're stuck with us now, kid. Promise. Promise. Rosa wrapped her arms around both of them. Let's go home, she said softly. Home. The word had never sounded so sweet. They walked toward the wagon that would take them back to the ranch, back to the life they'd built, back to everything that mattered. And somewhere behind them, the Ashworth brothers watched them go, already planning their next move. But Nate didn't care. He had his family. He had his home. He had everything. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. That was what family meant. And nothing, not money, not power, not all the lawyers in the world could take that away. The journey back to the ranch took 2 days, and they were the sweetest 2 days of Nate's life. Ellie chattered nonstop the first few hours, reliving every moment of the trial. How the judge had looked at the Ashworths. How Preston had destroyed their witnesses. How she'd felt standing up to them. Did you see their faces when the judge said I was staying with you? She bounced on the wagon seat. They looked like somebody'd punched them. I saw. Nate couldn't help but smile. You did good up there, Ellie. Real good. I was scared. Couldn't tell. You looked brave as hell. Nate. Rosa swatted his arm. Language. Sorry. Brave as heck. Ellie giggled. It was the most beautiful sound Nate had ever heard. They stopped for the night at a way station, and over dinner, Ellie got quiet. What's wrong? Rosa asked. Nothing's wrong. Just thinking. Ellie pushed food around her plate. Do you think they'll try again? The Ashworths? They might appeal the judge's decision, Nate said carefully. But Preston says it's unlikely to succeed. Morrison's ruling was pretty clear. That's not what I mean. Ellie looked up, her eyes too old again. I mean, what if they don't go through the courts? What if they just try to take me? They won't. How do you know? Because I'll kill anyone who tries. The thought came unbidden, fierce, and certain. But he couldn't say that to a 9-year-old. Because you're legally ours now, he said instead. The paperwork's filed. You're Eleanor Blackwood, daughter of Nathaniel and Rosalinda. That means something. Does it? To people like them. Rosa reached across the table and took Ellie's hand. Mija, listen to me. Those men had everything. Money, lawyers, power. And they still lost. Do you know why? Because the judge was fair. Because you told the truth. And because we love you more than they want your money. Rosa's voice was fierce. Love is stronger than greed. Always. I want to believe that. Then believe it. We won, Ellie. It's over. But Ellie didn't look convinced. They reached the ranch the next afternoon. Hector and the ranch hands had strung up a banner across the barn. Welcome home. Ellie. Ellie burst into tears the moment she saw it. You okay? Nate asked. Yeah, it's just nobody ever welcomed me anywhere before. Not really. Better get used to it. Hector tipped his hat. You're stuck with us now, Pequeña. That night they had a celebration. Rosa cooked enough food for an army, and the ranch hands all came up to the house. There was music and laughter and more joy than that house had seen in years. Nate watched Ellie dance with Hector, her face bright with happiness, and felt something settle in his chest. Peace, contentment, the bone-deep satisfaction of knowing his family was safe. Rosa slipped her hand into his. You did it, she said quietly. We did it. No, you. She squeezed his hand. You could have left that girl in the snow. Could have sent her to an orphanage once she was well. Could have given her up when the Ashworths came calling. But you didn't. You fought. She's worth fighting for. I know, but not every man would have seen that. Rosa leaned against his shoulder. You're a good man, Nathaniel Blackwood, whether you believe it or not. Later, after the hands had gone back to the bunkhouse and Ellie had finally fallen asleep, Nate stood on the back porch and looked out at his land. The snow gleamed silver in the moonlight. The mountains rose dark against the stars. Everything was still. Peaceful. Too peaceful. The feeling hit him like a punch to the gut. Something was wrong. He didn't know what, but every instinct he'd honed in 44 years was screaming at him to pay attention. You feel it too. Rosa appeared beside him wrapped in a shawl. Feel what? Like something bad is coming. Nate didn't deny it. Rosa knew him too well for lies. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just jumpy after everything that's happened. Maybe. Or maybe we should listen to our instincts. Rosa looked toward Ellie's window. I don't trust those men. They had murder in their eyes when we left that courtroom. They lost. They know they can't win through the courts. That's what worries me. Men like that don't accept defeat. They find other ways. Nate thought about Randolph Ashworth's face, the cold promise in his eyes. This isn't over. I'll post guards, he said. Round the clock. Nobody gets near the house without us knowing. You think they'd try something here at the ranch? I think desperate men do desperate things. Nate turned to face her. And the Ashworths just lost millions of dollars because of a 9-year-old girl. That makes them very desperate. They doubled the watch that night, and the night after, and the night after that. A week passed. Nothing happened. 2 weeks. Still nothing. Ellie started to relax. Started to believe she was really safe. Started sleeping through the night without nightmares. Nate wanted to believe it too. Wanted to think the Ashworths had given up and gone back to Boston. But that feeling in his gut wouldn't go away. On the 15th day, he rode out to check the north pasture. It was something he did every week. Count the cattle, check the fences, make sure everything was in order. He'd been gone maybe 3 hours when he heard the shot. One gunshot echoing across the valley from the direction of the ranch. Nate kicked Smoke into a gallop and rode like the devil was chasing him. He crested the ridge overlooking the ranch, and his blood turned to ice. 2 wagons in the yard. A dozen men armed. Rosa standing on the porch with a rifle, Hector beside her with his pistol drawn. And Randolph Ashworth holding Ellie by the arm, dragging her toward one of the wagons. No! The word tore out of Nate's throat. He rode straight down the ridge too fast, not caring. Smoke stumbled but caught himself. Nate yanked his rifle from the scabbard and fired a shot into the air. Everyone froze. Let her go. Nate's voice was deadly calm. Let her go right now, or I swear to God, I'll kill you where you stand. Ashworth pulled Ellie tighter against him. You're trespassing, Blackwood. This is a citizen's arrest. The girl is coming with us. Like hell she is. We have new evidence. Proof that the adoption was fraudulent. A judge in Boston has issued a warrant. A judge in Boston has no authority here. Federal jurisdiction says otherwise. Ashworth gestured to one of his men who held up an official-looking document. The marshal will be here tomorrow to enforce it. We're simply taking the girl into protective custody until he arrives. That's horseshit, and you know it. Language, Blackwood. There's a child present. Nate dismounted rifle still trained on Ashworth. Around him, ranch hands were appearing from the barn from the bunkhouse, all armed. "You've got about 10 seconds to let that girl go before my men start shooting. And you've got about 5 seconds to stand down before my men return fire." Ashworth's smile was cold. "I counted your people, Blackwood. You're outnumbered 2-1. This doesn't have to get bloody. Just let us take what's ours." "She's not yours. She's never been yours." "Papa!" Ellie was crying, struggling against Ashworth's grip. "Papa, help!" The word broke something in Nate. He'd lost Sarah. He'd lost Benjamin. He'd spent 8 years in hell alone, and broken, and wishing he'd died instead of them. But he'd been given a second chance, a daughter who called him Papa, a family worth living for. He wasn't losing them. Not again. Not ever. "Hector," Nate said quietly. "On my signal." "Si, jefe." "Rosa, get down." Rosa dropped behind the porch railing. "Ashworth, last chance, let her go. Or what, you'll shoot me in front of all these witnesses? With your daughter watching, I don't think so." Ashworth started backing toward the wagon, dragging Ellie with him. "You're not a killer, Blackwood. You're just a washed-up rancher who got lucky in court. But luck runs out." "You're right. I'm not a killer." Nate lowered his rifle slightly. "But I'm a father, and there's nothing more dangerous than a man protecting his child." He raised the rifle again and fired. The bullet hit the ground inches from Ashworth's feet. The man jumped his grip on Ellie, loosening for just a second. It was enough. Ellie twisted, bit down hard on Ashworth's hand, and ran. All hell broke loose. Ashworth's men went for their guns. The ranch hands opened fire. Someone screamed. Horses reared and bolted. Nate ran forward, firing and reloading on instinct, driving toward Ellie. A bullet whizzed past his ear. Another hit the ground beside him. "Ellie, run to the house." She was running, but one of Ashworth's men was closer. He grabbed her arm, yanked her back. Hector's pistol barked. The man went down, clutching his leg. Ellie scrambled free and sprinted for the porch. Rosa hauled her up, sheltering her with her own body. "Fall back!" Ashworth was shouting. "Fall back to the wagons!" His men retreated, firing as they went. 2 of them were wounded, leaving blood trails in the snow. The rest were dragging them toward the wagons. Nate tracked Ashworth with his rifle. 1 shot. That's all it would take. 1 shot, and this would be over. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Don't." Rosa's voice came from the porch. "Don't, Nate. He's not worth it." Nate held his aim for another heartbeat. 2, 3. Then he lowered the rifle. Ashworth saw it and laughed, wild and unhinged. "That's right. You don't have the stomach for it." He was climbing into the wagon, his wounded men piled in behind him. "This isn't over, Blackwood. You hear me? We'll be back with the real law, with real authority, and next time, I won't miss." Something in Nate's voice made Ashworth's smile falter. "Drive," he told his men. "Drive." The wagons lurched into motion, racing down the road toward town. The ranch hands wanted to give chase, but Nate called them off. "Let them go. We've got wounded to tend to." Miraculously, none of the ranch hands had been hit. One of Ashworth's men had left a blood trail, but he'd made it to the wagon. Nate walked to the porch on legs that didn't quite feel steady. "Ellie, you okay?" She flew down the steps and threw herself at him, sobbing. I'm sorry. I went outside to feed the chickens and they just grabbed me. I'm sorry." "Shh, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault." Nate held her tight, feeling her shake. "You're safe now. They said they had papers. They said they could take me. They were lying. Those papers aren't worth the ink they're printed on." He pulled back, looking her in the eye. "Listen to me, Ellie. You are my daughter, mine and Rose's. No piece of paper from Boston is going to change that. But what if they come back? What if next time we'll be ready?" Rosa joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. "We should go to the marshal," she said. "Tell him what happened. Get it on record. Already on my way. Hector was mounting his horse. I'll bring him back here. Let him see the evidence. The blood trails. Among other things. Hector's expression was grim. Those men opened fire on a child. That ain't legal no matter what papers they claim to have. He rode off, and Nate led his family inside. The rest of the day passed in a blur. The marshal took statements, examined the bullet holes and bloodstains. He was a grizzled man named Cooper, who'd known Nate for years. Ashworth's claiming you attacked him, Cooper said. Says he was serving legal papers when you opened fire. He was kidnapping my daughter. I know, I saw Rosa's statement, and Hector's, and about 6 others. Cooper shook his head. Man's a damn fool coming out here like that. But he's also rich and connected. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. It's going to get uglier. Cooper met Nate's eyes. He's filed charges against you. Assault, attempted murder. He's claiming you shot at him without provocation. That's bullshit. I know it is, but he's got lawyers. Lots of them. And they're already drawing up papers to have you arrested. Nate's blood ran cold. If I'm arrested, Ellie would be placed with whoever the court designates, probably a temporary guardian while the case proceeds. Cooper's expression was sympathetic. Which is exactly what Ashworth wants. Get you out of the way, grab the girl, disappear back to Boston before anyone can stop them. So, what do? You get ahead of this. File your own charges, attempted kidnapping, assault, firing on your property, whatever Preston can think of. Cooper stood. And you keep that girl close. Don't let her out of your sight. After Cooper left, Nate found Preston's telegram waiting at the post office in town. The lawyer had heard about the attack and was already on his way. He arrived 2 days later, furious. They did what? Preston paced Nate's study like a caged animal. They actually tried to kidnap her. They said they had papers. Forgeries. I already checked. There's no judge in Boston, federal or otherwise, who issued any such warrant. Preston slammed his hand on the desk. This was an illegal action by desperate men. And now they're trying to turn it around on you. Can they do that? They can try. And with enough money and enough lawyers, they might succeed. Preston pulled out his notebook. We need to move fast. File countercharges. Get depositions from every witness. Document everything. And if it goes to trial, then we fight, again. Preston's eyes were hard. But Nate, I need you to understand something. The Ashworths have unlimited resources. They can drag this out for years. Appeal after appeal after appeal. Even if you win, it'll cost you everything. I don't care about the cost. I know, but I need you to be realistic. They're going to come at you with everything they have. Your finances, your past. They'll try to prove you're unfit. That Rosa married you under false pretenses. That Ellie was coerced into choosing you. None of that's true. Doesn't matter. Truth is what you can prove in court. Preston sat down heavily. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to prepare you. This could be a long war. Then it's a war. Nate's voice was steel. I didn't start it. But I sure as hell plan to finish it. The next 3 months were the hardest of Nate's life. The legal battles consumed everything. Money, time, peace of mind. Every week brought new motions, new hearings, new attempts by the Ashworths to either take Ellie or destroy the Blackwoods trying. They tried to claim the ranch, tried to freeze Nate's assets, tried to have Rosa deported on some trumped-up immigration technicality. Preston fought them at every turn, but it was exhausting and expensive. Nate sold cattle, sold horses, mortgaged the ranch, whatever it took. Through it all, Ellie watched with frightened eyes. We could just run, she said one night. Go to Mexico or Canada, somewhere they can't find us. No. Nate's voice was firm. We don't run. We stand and fight. But you're losing everything. The ranch, your money. All because of me. Not because of you. Because of them. He took her hands. Ellie, listen. This ranch, this money, none of it matters. Not compared to you. I could lose everything and still have what's important. But, no buts. You're my daughter. That's not negotiable. That's not up for sale. And no amount of legal pressure is going to change my mind. Ellie cried herself to sleep that night. And many nights after. But she didn't give up. None of them did. Rosa took in sewing to help with money. Ellie did extra chores without being asked. The ranch hands worked double shifts without complaint. Everyone pulled together. Because they understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about one girl. It was about whether money and power could override love and family. Whether the law served justice or just served the wealthy. And slowly, painfully, they started to win. Preston got one of Ashworth's forged documents thrown out. Then another. Then he found a witness, a clerk in Boston who admitted to being paid to fabricate records. The case began to crumble. By summer, the Ashworths were on the defensive. Their lawyers were making mistakes. Their witnesses were contradicting each other. The judge, a different one this time, appointed to hear the appeals, was losing patience. In August, he called both parties into chambers. Nate and Preston sat on one side. The Ashworth brothers and their lead counsel sat on the other. The judge didn't waste time. Gentlemen, I've reviewed every filing in this case, and I have to say, I'm appalled. He looked at the Ashworths. You've abused the legal system. You've filed frivolous motions. You've submitted false evidence. And you've harassed a family that has done nothing but try to care for a child. Your Honor, if I may, the Ashworth lawyer began. You may not. I'm still talking. The judge's voice was ice. I'm dismissing all of your appeals, all of your countersuits, all of it. The original custody ruling stands. Eleanor Blackwood is the legal daughter of Nathaniel and Rosalinda Blackwood, and that is final. But the inheritance, Randolph started, is none of my concern. This is a family court, not a probate court. Whatever financial arrangements need to be made, you can sort them out through the appropriate channels, but you will do so without involving this child. Your Honor, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You want money. You thought you could use a little girl to get it, and now you're angry because you lost. The judge stood. This court is done. If you file any further motions regarding this child, I will hold you in contempt. Am I clear? The Ashworths had no choice but to nod. Then we're done here. Get out of my chambers. Outside the courthouse, Nate stood in the summer sunshine and breathed deeply. It was over. Really over. We won, Preston said. Again. And this time it's final. You sure? As sure as I can be. The judge's ruling is ironclad. They'd need the Supreme Court to overturn it, and that's not going to happen. Preston shook his hand. Go home, Nate. Go home to your family. Nate did. The ride back to the ranch took most of the day. When he crested the ridge and saw the house in the valley below, his throat tightened. Home. He'd almost lost it. Almost lost everything, but he hadn't. They'd fought, and they'd won. Ellie was watching from the porch. The moment she saw him, she started running. Papa! Papa! He dismounted and caught her as she launched herself at him. Is it over? Is it really over? It's over. The judge threw out everything. You're ours, Ellie. Forever. Legally. Officially. No more appeals. No more fights. She burst into tears. Happy tears this time. Rosa came down from the porch moving slower, her hand pressed to her belly. Nate noticed for the first time how much her shape had changed. Rosa, she smiled. I was going to wait until you got home to tell you, but... She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. We're having a baby. The world stopped. A baby. Due in December. The doctor confirmed it last week. Her eyes were bright with tears. Ellie is going to have a little brother or sister. Nate looked between them. His wife. His daughter. The child growing inside Rosa. His family. He'd lost everything once. had been so broken he'd wanted to die, had given up on life, on love, on hope, and then a little girl had crawled through a blizzard and changed everything. "Come here," he said, pulling them both close. "Both of you, all three of you." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the fading light. That night after Ellie had gone to bed, Nate and Rosa sat on the back porch. The stars were coming out bright and cold and beautiful. "Are you happy?" Rosa asked. "More than I ever thought I'd be again." "Me too." She leaned against him. "It's funny how life works. A year ago I was just a housekeeper. You were alone. Ellie was dying in the snow. And now we're a family." "Yes." She squeezed his hand. "We are." "Rosa." "Thank you. For offering to marry me. For fighting for Ellie. For giving me a reason to live again." "You don't have to thank me. You gave me the same thing." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Inside the house, Ellie slept peacefully, her locket on the bedside table, her future secure. She dreamed of horses, and home, and a baby brother or sister to teach everything she'd learned. She dreamed of growing up here on this ranch with parents who loved her. She didn't dream of cold or fear or abandonment. Those nightmares were gone. The years passed. Ellie grew from a frightened 9-year-old into a confident young woman. She learned to ride like she was born in the saddle, learned to rope and brand and manage the ranch books, learned everything Nate could teach her. Her little brother came first, a squalling red-faced baby they named Benjamin after the son Nate had lost. Then a sister, Sarah, 2 years later. Then another brother, Diego, named for Rosa's late husband. The ranch prospered. Word spread about the rancher who'd fought the Ashworth family and won. People respected that. Respected Nate. Ellie's inheritance sat in trust untouched. She didn't need it. Didn't want it. It was blood money tainted by the family that had thrown her away. When she turned 21, she signed it all over to charity. Every penny. The same charities her grandfather had tried to avoid. The Ashworth brothers never recovered from the loss. Their business collapsed. Their reputation crumbled. They died bitter and alone, exactly as they deserved. But that was later. Much later. For now, on a winter evening 5 years after Nate had pulled Ellie from the snow, the Blackwood family gathered around the dinner table. Ellie, 14, now helped Rosa serve the meal, while little Benjamin chased 3-year-old Sarah around the room. Nate watched them with a contentment so deep it hurt. "Papa," Ellie said, sitting down, "Hector says I'm ready to ride the North Range by myself. Says I know it as well as anyone. You probably do. You've got a good eye for cattle. So can I tomorrow. We'll see." "That means yes." She grinned. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm coming with you. Make sure you really are ready." "I am ready. I've been ready for months." "Then one more day won't hurt." They ate in the warm glow of the fire with laughter and love filling the spaces where there had once been only silence. After dinner, Nate stood on the back porch with Rosa watching the snowfall. The same snow that had nearly killed Ellie. The same cold that had brought her into his life. "Do you ever think about that day?" Rosa asked. "When you found her. Every day. What do you think would have happened if you'd ridden past if smoke hadn't stopped?" "I don't know. Don't like to think about it." "But do you think it was fate, God? Some kind of miracle?" Nate thought about it. About a broken rancher who'd given up on life. About a dying child who wouldn't give up. About how their paths had crossed in the middle of nowhere. "I think," he said slowly, "that sometimes the universe gives you a second chance, if you're smart enough to take it. And you took it. We all did." He pulled her close. "You, me, Ellie. We all got a second chance. And we made damn sure not to waste it." Inside, Ellie was reading to her younger siblings. Her voice carried through the open door, telling a story about a brave girl and a fierce rancher, and a family built from love instead of blood. Nate listened and smiled. They'd come so far. Through blizzards and legal battles and the cruelty of people who valued money over human life. They'd lost and won again, but they'd done it together. And that made all the difference. "Come on," Rosa said, tugging his hand. "It's cold out here. Let's go inside." "In a minute." Nate stood there a moment longer, looking out at the snow-covered prairie. Somewhere out there in the darkness was the place where he'd found Ellie, the place where both their lives had changed forever. He sent up a silent prayer of thanks to whatever force had put him there that day, to whatever reason smoke had stopped, to whatever stubborn spark had kept Ellie alive long enough for him to find her. Then he turned and walked inside, closing the door on the cold. His family was waiting. His daughter, his wife, his children. Everything that mattered was right here in this house, in this moment. And Nathaniel Blackwood, broken rancher, reluctant father, fierce protector, finally understood what it meant to be truly wealthy, not in money, not in land, not in any of the things the Ashworths had valued, but in love, in family, in the knowledge that you'd do anything, sacrifice everything to protect the people who mattered most. That was the only wealth worth having, and he wouldn't trade it for all the gold in the world.